What profession was once highly respected, but is now a complete joke? Milkman. They used to be critical. Now they are literally just a joke about your mother being a slut. Trust me, it's not a joke. My dad is a dairy farmer. My mom used to joke that she was knocked up by the milkman, since she kinda was. My grandpa had a job as a milkman, as well as 2 other jobs, when he met my grandma while doing deliveries. She literally fell in love with the milkman. Sounds like your grandfather delivered the cream, alright. Multiple times. They had 9 kids. The Night's Watch. It used to be honorable, but now it is only taken up by thieves, rapists and criminals. That's why they put up the wall. They were bringing drugs, they were bringing crime, they were rapists, and some, I'm sure, were good people. If Donald Trump was Lord Commander, he would have made the wildlings pay for the wall. Journalism. BuzzFeed. 10 jobs that are a complete joke. Number 1 will shock you. 10 jobs that Reddit said are a complete joke yesterday. Number 1 will shock you was actually number 3, so we aren't accused of plagiarism. Travel agents. Don't get me wrong, some of them are good, and I still use one sometimes. But you can generally do a better job yourself with internet access. My wife and I tried to get a travel agent to help us plan our honeymoon. We want to go for a week-long scuba trip to Bonaire and thought that an agent would be able to help us get that organized. Nope. All any of them wanted us to do was forget Bonaire and book a cruise. They all pushed cruises so hard, even when we specifically said that we do not want to go on a cruise. For a lot of them, that's their bread and butter. Cruises and package deals. Reddit CEO. Believe it or not, airline pilot. They're fiercely competitive and don't make what they used to. And to go hand in hand with this, flight attendants. It used to be the most glamorous occupation for women. I definitely wouldn't say it's a complete joke, same with pilots, but it's certainly not what it used to be. In us domestic flights for sure. My mother used to be a stewardess, and it was a fantastic job. I've had one flight attendant on a US domestic flight in the past 10 years who wasn't just outright rude or apathetic towards me. Asian airline companies, on the other hand, are ridiculous. Korean Air is downright luxurious in comparison to US airlines. The flight attendants are incredibly polite and helpful, and very enthusiastic. You even get slippers and they bring you hot towels during the flight. In coach, US airline deregulation just resulted in a race to the bottom and turned the domestic carriers into shut. Bank teller, still important but used to be way more so. Photographers in many cases seem to have fallen a long way from respected. Because every new mother attempts her own photography company from home with the cool pics and bombards the ever-living duck out of your Facebook for like requests. I just snorted and laughed out loud reading this. It's so true. I'm in the military and I can't keep count with all the military wives who attempt this. When you have every other person buying an entry-level DSLR and putting a shutty watermark on every picture they take and calling themselves photographers, it's no wonder. TV repairman. They were just replaced by garbage men. We really live in a throwaway society. Elevator operator. Seriously, there used to be an entire union dedicated to keeping guys in those little boxes pushing buttons because it was a specialized job no one else could do. Well, that's really because they used to be manual, so you had to time stopping correctly to ensure that you didn't create a tripping hazard, etc. Technically true, but the profession continued long after elevators became button pushing. Yes, and it is still a career now, mostly in fancy hotels, where people are too posh to do peasant work. Pushing a button? Might as well make me work on a farm now. What? Not that it's a complete joke, but being a barber used to be 10 times more serious than it is now. Yeah. My barber recently had to start supplementing his income by selling meat pies. They're quite good, really. The clergy. There used to be a lot of weight given to priests, bishops, and cardinals. This Soviet poster places religious leaders above the middle class and the military, and in Oxford University being a doctor of divinity places you at the top of academic standing, above doctors of science and medicine. Nowadays if someone tells you they're a bishop you might think, oh wow, that's a big accomplishment, but you won't necessarily see them as your social superior. During the Middle Ages, a bishop was one of the dankest thing you could become. If you are not born royal, There was no opening for you towards the throne, but you nearly anyone could enjoy the perks of being a priest. The perks being levy taxes on the peasants, maintaining your own army, and help the king when needed, even leading armies in wars. The king ain't got shut on you, since you can oust a small-time king anytime by plotting against him. But you can only move in diagonal directions. Teachers, salaries, hours worked far exceed hours paid, budget cuts, high stakes outcomes, political maneuvering, vendetta from the media, lack of respect from children, helicopter parenting, working during summer, despite what most think. On the flip side, I remember making fun of kids when I was a kid saying, "You'll be a garbage man one day, loser," and now, working in a public works department, I look at the garbage men and say maybe I was wrong. $60k plus dollars pay, full pension, home by 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, overtime, depending on tenure, up to 5 weeks vacation. TV news anchors. They were once respected paragons of truth. Nowadays anchorman Ron Burgundy seems more like a documentary than a farcical satire. That's because a single anchor had to deliver the news without catering to anyone's political sensibilities, since it was the news. Compared to the choose your own 24-hour news station catered to your specific myopic worldview of today. Radio DJ. Once the tastemakers, now they scramble for relevancy and employment in a world of podcasts and internet radio. College radio DJs are entertaining because they have the power to choose what gets played. I'll listen to them anytime. It seems like all radio DJs do these days is interrupt the music to tell you that it's uninterrupted. Retail workers. It used to be seen as respectable work. You weren't doing manual labor and had reasonable expectation of either advancing to management or opening a store of your own. Now if you're over the age of 18 and working retail, everyone automatically assumes you're a failure, and hell, based on my experience, even if you're under 18 and working retail, a lot of people will still think you're a failure. Even being the manager of a retail store doesn't earn you much respect anymore, though owning your own business still does. Once when I was working retail in college, I heard someone on the queue quoting Robert Frost. When I said something to them about it, they looked me squarely in the eye and said, "Well then, what are you doing here? Working so I have money to live while I'm getting my education, you prick." Being a presidential candidate. Lawyer. It used to be highly respectable, and no law firm needed to advertise. The universities then saw a money-making opportunity and produced far more lawyers than the market could handle. These lawyers needed to make money to pay off their tuition. So we got the ambulance chasers and stupid desperate advertising. We got the lawyer jokes, and the used car salesman had a collective sigh of relief. Am law student. It is much less respectable than it once was. I'm clerking for a small firm that turns away as much business as they take on. They don't advertise either. The problem is that anyone and his brother can get into law school. I go to a lower ranked law school with people who can hardly write. What will happen is a lot of these people very well may pass the bar, but they'll never work as lawyers anywhere. Postman. It was always neither snow nor rain nor heat nor gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds. Must have been when the quality of mail was important. Now it's all bills and junk mail. Depends where you live. Apparently town city rounds are shut these days, but rural rounds are still like the good old days, i.e. people respect postmen, make them tea, feed them, tip them at Christmas. That's because the USPS is freaking insane. You can mail a letter to 3 minutes past the Big Rock, turn left at the tree split by lightning, and they'll actually get it there. The USPS is being deliberately crippled by being forced to prepay decades of pensions for workers it hasn't even hired yet. Alchemist. There is actually a bunch of alchemists working at the world's particle colliders, making new element by smashing together lighter element. In fact, alchemy has only recently become a serious profession. Nuclear engineering major here. Can confirm. Basically alchemy. Clown. My father went to clown school to learn how to do improv and stuff for sick children in hospital. He quit when he learned he had to shave his beard though. I mean, I want to be a good Samaritan, but I'm not gonna do it with a babby face, that's for damn sure. And then he stomps out of class in the giant red shoes. Whipmaker. Before the invention of the car, whips were an essential tool. to travel by horse and for farming. Different from what you might expect, these whips were not used to hit and harm animals. The far more common way to direct animals was to crack the whip. When the whip moves faster than the speed of sound, a small sonic boom is created, which is a sound effect called the crack. This effect can be used to guide animals. How cool is that? Small sonic booms in your hand. I come from a very small village in South Germany, 600 inhabitants, that used to be the biggest supplier of whips in Europe, producing over 5,000 whips per day on average. My grandfather and all generations before him were all professional whip manufacturers. In my village alone there were several large competing factories producing handmade whips. My dad started a museum about whip manufacturing, and today my brother is directing it. Today unfortunately whip manufacturers are a complete joke, essentially being reduces to Chinese mass production sex toy companies. Thanks for reading, and your interest in whips. If you have any questions about whips, let me know.